Each year, we see instances of student athletes involved in improper actions and receiving improper benefits from boosters and other people outside the program. As this happens every year, we see a call from the general public that we need to pay student athletes. That with the millions of dollars that are being generated by college athletics, that some of that money should go back to the players, the individual student athletes, to help defray their costs. And while this is a good idea in principle, today I will show you why this idea is not feasible within the current framework of the NCAA. Before we get into the meat of this matter, though, I'd like to talk about a couple of statistics that will greatly play into this debate. First, there are approximately 400,000 student athletes within the framework of the NCAA, and that's from Division I all the way down to Division III, not including junior college. That an average full-ride scholarship within a Division I NCAA school is worth approximately $27,500. It's somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 a year. And that a general stipend that is being proposed for the NCAA would cost roughly about $200 million a year. So given that, the next point that we come into is that people say that players are entitled to some level of compensation because they're the ones that are generating this revenue for the university. But athletes are students, and they're not employees of the university. Although they directly are related to the revenue that is generated, they're actually students. And like I said, when you compare that a full ride scholarship is about $27,000 to $30,000 a year, that is their compensation for their full ride scholarship. Yes, they do spend a lot of time in practice and do not have typically the time that an average student would have to work outside of their normal daily framework to defray their costs, but they are being compensated, and they are being compensated with health insurance. Students that are injured are covered under a blanket insurance policy by the NCAA. Another fact that comes up into this is that people say that if we provide some type of an annual stipend or a monthly stipend, that this would encourage students from not taking money or jumping early to go to the NFL. Well, when you look at the fact that the base salary for an NFL rookie is $375,000 a year, and that the average NBA rookie salary is $450,000 a year, and you're talking about paying a student athlete $3,000 a year, there really isn't a lot of emphasis on, well, you get this extra money, so now you're really not looking to jump to the NBA. There's such a huge difference between the salaries that those students are still going to jump into the professional ranks that are drafted just due to the money that's involved. So what does this all boil down to? Well, when you look at universities such as big universities, Texas, Notre Dame, USC, those type of schools, they run their athletic budget in the black. They have surpluses $8, $9, $10 million a year. So paying all of their student athletes $3,000 a year really is not a big issue for them. Where the issue comes into play on this is that when you look at the bottom third of just Division I, the top division in college sports, schools ranked 81st through 120th, there are 120 schools in Division I. Those schools are operating their athletic budget on a margin or in the red, and most of them cannot afford to pay the money to a student athlete. There is no mechanism in place from the NCAA that they would be providing money to all member schools in order to provide this stipend. You're talking $200 million a year. So what does this boil down to? It boils down to we are going to increase the divide between the haves and the have-nots. That the big schools with big donors, big television contracts will have the extra money that they can afford to pay all of their student athletes. The smaller schools, then this totally becomes a Title IX issue because they cannot equitably pay all of their students a stipend. And so now they're looking at a problem, which is Title IX, which is the equity law, equity between everybody that's involved in college sports. So the reason that this is not workable within the NCAA framework is that it cannot be applied evenly across all schools. This doesn't even really go into looking at Division I AA and Division II, and those programs are even more at a deficit as far as trying to provide the money. So in conclusion, that the idea of providing a student athlete with a stipend, while a good idea because it does give them a little extra pocket money because they do not have the opportunity to work outside of their normal college framework, is really not feasible for the NCAA just because of the fact that the big schools will get bigger. Students will look at them that they can pay a stipend, therefore that's where I'm going to go when I go to play. I'm not going to go to this smaller school that would give me just as good an education, but they cannot provide me the benefits that I desire. And so you'll have a divide in recruiting, and then you will also have a very large and lengthy court battle in the fact that big schools can afford to pay it, the smaller schools cannot, and therefore you have a large inequity that is not fair to everyone. Thank you very much.